Hey guys, Jay here, and today is going to be a very quick video. Actually, it is going to be about automation mainly, and also I'll talk a little bit about the call to arm gem, which are the two new automation support gem. Yeah, let's get straight to it. First of all, these are the two gems. The version you're seeing on the screen here is level 1, no quality. Just know that both of these gems with a maximum level, which is level 20 by default, and then 20% quality, you will have exactly 0% reduced cooldown. So basically it is just there to automate the skill, and it will not have any penalty to the cooldown of the actual skill that is supported. These are support gem, right? So the main gem is actually automation support and call to arms support. So they are support gem first of all, so you cannot actually increase the quality by linking enhanced, for example, to the gem. It will not improve the cooldown through the quality with enhanced. So just know that currently with level 21, 23 quality is the maximum you can get, and with that you have 2% bonus cooldown, which is almost nothing. So yeah, what are these gems doing? So first of all, I want to actually talk about call to arms first. So what it does is it casts the war cry, the linked war cry on cooldown, as long as you have enough resources to cast it. Normally it's mana. It can be ES if you have Eldritch Battery as a keystone allocated, and also it can be life if you linked it to life tap or have blood magic. So as long as you have the cost, and it will cast the skill for you. It has a 200% reservation multiplier. That is very big, right? Because normally the Warcry skill gems already cost a pretty decent amount of mana, like 30 or something, depend on which Warcry it is, but quite a lot of mana required to cast a Warcry normally. So if you link it to this gem, you have to somehow manage the cost of it. Just keep that in mind. The upside is you don't have to have a button allocated for the skill gem, because for example, if you play a melee build, you have 2 totem button, potentially a vow skill button, a main attack, a movement skill, a guard skill, multiple other things. So it can comes to a point where you don't have enough button in the bars to allocate it. By default, you have 8 slot, and then with if you hold the control, you have an additional 5 slot for QWERT, right? So yeah, that is what the skill is good for and what it is used. The call to arms, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's quite simple, because it only applies to Warcry, so it is very self-explanatory. Just link the Warcry you want to it and it will cast for you. It is pretty much the keystone call to arms that got removed, which is turned into this support gem and then add the automation cast into it. So basically it is a nerf. First of all, at least it is a heavy nerf for melee build, because you require 1 extra socket to make a Warcry instant. If you don't make a Warcry instant with call to arms, you will have an animation to cast it and it will not feel right, because you stop attacking and you have to actually Warcry. That is not, really feels smooth for a melee build. Maybe for spellcaster, for example, if you want to just socket in Entering Cry in any other kind of build that are not very socket starving, you can afford the socket to link it. For example, let's say you linked call to arm with Entering Cry and then blood magic, life tap, and you will have a 3-link that automatically casts Entering Cry on cooldown and give you a bunch of, first of all, endurance charge and then regeneration. So for some specific setup, you cannot afford a lot of sockets, then it is a bad thing. But for some other builds that normally you cannot go all the way through the bottom end of the skill tree to Gara to get the call to arm keystone before, then it is actually a buff. So it makes it makes Warcry being more versatile with all builds that on any area of the tree. Before, it pretty much is the bottom left side of the skill tree, which is the Marauder and maybe the Duelist. Yeah. So that is call to arm. Next one is the big one here, automation. So automation will support the spell skill gem that are instant and have no reservation. Cannot support skill used by totem traps mine. That is a very regular thing. Cannot do modify skill of minions. And so it automatically casts the skill that is linked to it for you on cooldown. Again, as long as you have the resources to cast it, mana, life, etc. The thing that I want to talk about here is what are the skills that are eligible for automation here, and I'm going to list it. I'm going to list them all and in the following section. So first of all the auras and like stand skill, buff skill like Arctic Armor, Tempest Shield, they are reservation skills, so they will not apply to this. And even if the automation support can actually support those skills, there is no real purpose to actually just autocast the aura and then turn it on and off again and again and again, and also apply a multiplier to the cost of it. So that is very counterintuitive. So that is not a problem here. Maybe the only argument you can have is the stand skill, because the stand skill actually alternate between sand and blood stand, which there are some conditional buffs that that your character can have when you change stance recently, which is the last 4 seconds. So yeah, there's some niche cases where you can actually argue for that. That can be a good automation, but normally it's no use. So let's get to all the skills that can actually benefit from the automation. So first of all, the guard skill. These are the normal thing that before almost everyone are using on left click, because it is a guard skill. It is a defensive buff that you want to just cast to have as much of time as possible, basically. And they are trying to remove the left click thingy. I'm not entirely sure what is the exact reason behind it. From what they say, I think it might seem unfair for console players, for example. I'm not exactly sure what is the reason, but now we need automation to actually just cast it instead of putting it on left click. Of course, you can still allocate the skill. You can just allocate the skill onto a button and press it on demand wherever you want. But to autocast like what we do on left click before, now we need to link it to automation. Here, probably the biggest one, the most interesting one right now is Arcane Cloak, because it's not only a guard skill, but it also provides a lot of damage to your other skills. So that can be something that you really want to put on a automation gem, right? Keep in mind that the automation gem actually do not increase the amount of current mana spent on the Arcane Cloak. If you read here, the Arcane Cloak spend 45 to 64% of current mana. That is a part of the skill. It's not the cost of the skill, if that makes sense. The skill literally costs 0 mana, and you multiply 0 by whatever percent, it is still 0. So it will not increase the amount of mana that this skill actually consume, right? So just know that it will not help to improve your consume of mana with Arcane Cloak, because if you play a mana build and you use Arcane Cloak, you would try to get Arcane Cloak to consume as much mana as possible, so the flat damage it adds is better, but in fact you cannot do it, right? Next one is going to be movement skills, and there are 2 skills that is eligible for automation here, which is Phase Run and Withering Steps, right? So it basically gives you a movement speed buff, and other buffs. In the case of Phase Run is phasing, and in the case of Withering Step, it is phasing and elusive, and also inflict wither to nearby enemies. So you can put this one on automation, and it will cast on cooldown for you, which is quite nice. Normally, we also, before any build, we use these two skills. We probably put it on left click anyway. So that is just, no longer you need to have it on your skill bar. That is pretty much the only upside. The downside is one extra gem slot required for those. So potentially you have one less link to it. For example, Withering Step and Phase Run, you can link with like increased duration, efficacy, which is also increased duration, and maybe Empower Enhance or something. So that is already like, it can be like 4 links or even more than 4 links already. So if you require another button to, another gem slot to make it automated, that is a pretty much is enough. Next one, these are buff skill or utility skill. They are convocation in terms of minion build, so you pull your minions to you. Normally it is to help to keep the specters and the animate guardian near your character, or call the guardian ascendancy minion, the Super Saiyan one, near you, so it will burn enemies around. Basically, it calls all the minions to your character for whatever purpose. This can be do on automation. This is what, depending on the build, right? So a lot of minions builds actually have problems with the amount of socket that they can have. Normally they are already very tight on sockets, so they cannot afford to have an additional link for convocation, and that is something not very ideal for minion builds, for most minion builds. But if the build can afford an extra link, then it is whatever. Berserk, well, you want to have as much uptime with Berserk as possible, so just, don't need to press the Berserk button, don't need to worry about actually forgetting to press the Berserk button, basically. So if you are building a character with Berserk, you put it in automation if you can afford the gem slot. Very straightforward. Right. For damage, so first of all, this technically Plague Bearer is technically usable with the automation by definition, but I don't think it is good because it is a toggle skill, so it will continuously toggle between the two stances. Basically, it is pretty much working like a stance skill. So it has two forms. One is releasing and one is collecting, basically. And you collect stack by poisoning enemies, and then you release those stack, dealing damage over time nearby your character like a righteous fire. So you want to toggle that on demand normally, I think. So this is also not an ideal gem to use with automation, unless someone figures something else that I don't really know about yet. Brand Recall, this is probably the best skill. It is the only skill that actually best benefit from this automation gem, because it just works. Normally with Brand's build, you don't really starve for socket, and now you don't need to actually hold down a button to keep casting Brand's Recall. The other thing is for Brand's build, for example, if you are wearing a staff, for example, and then you also have another 6 link in your body armor, you can potentially link Brand Recall with like Empower Enhance to improve the cooldown. And then another thing you can do is you actually can link other skills to the same setup. For example, you can link a guard skill, so you will have as much uptime of the guard skill as possible on the same link. So yeah, potentially just a big utility links with multiple spells, and include brand recall and probably a guard skill, right? Maybe even movement skill, or maybe berserk, because we in this league we actually have the helmet that makes berserk benefit caster, as in the teaser, so that can be a thing as well. Maybe brand recall, berserk, guard skill, empower, enhance. It seems good, right? So that's everything, and thanks so much for watching. My face is on the way here. Okay, thanks so much for watching, and that's everything for this video. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Peace. Subscribe.